Good evening. When I reflect on our verse and my time here at Westmont, I think about how I approach most everything with questions. And for me, this year was one of more questions than usual, questions particularly regarding Christianity. Although I had long been encouraged by many to engage my faith critically, this year I suddenly found myself running down an analytical rabbit trail that quickly morphed into what looked more like a well-paved, well-lit, and well-traveled road that, in the words of Bilbo Baggins, goes ever on and on. Eventually, this road led me into a mental, emotional, and spiritual desert where I was left with nothing but seemingly unanswerable questions. Or so I thought. Having spent quite a bit of time in the Middle East growing up, I've become convinced that the desert is one of the most beautiful places you can find yourself in, if you are willing to just sit on a rock and look hard and long at the seemingly endless monotony around you and glory in details that don't immediately meet the eye. Based on this real-life conviction, I began to accept my mental geography and sit on the metaphorical rock of questions that had solidified over months of doubt. When I did so, I quickly realized that I was not alone. In fact, I was in rather humbling company. While reading a book for class, I came across a brief excerpt on the well-known and soon-to-be canonized Mother Teresa, the Albanian nun renowned for her saintly caring for the sick and dying in the slums of Calcutta. What was not well known to me, however, was that Mother Teresa, after having received a clear vision of God and hearing his voice in 1946, did not feel God for 49 years. This woman, who lived a life of singular sacrifice and extraordinary compassion for the sake of Jesus Christ, and who inspired and encouraged countless people in living out their Christian faith, was the same woman who confessed to a Jesuit priest, "Father, I do realize that when I open my mouth to speak to the sisters and to people about God and God's work, it brings them light, joy, and courage. But I get nothing of it. Inside, it is all dark and feeling that I am totally cut off from God." How could this be? An extremely devout, phenomenally kind, and exceptionally serving nun questioned whether God was even there. And yet, she continued to live a life deemed worthy of canonization by the Catholic Church. As exemplified in her prayers and life's work, Mother Teresa looks to have embodied the concept of seeking God. Yet she felt compelled to keep on living in a dark and waterless desert. Her story gives me pause. As all of us here tonight are, in some capacity, looking forward to this next chapter of life, we are each experiencing mixed emotions. Some of hope, eagerness, anticipation, and excitement. Some of fear, doubt, uncertainty, loneliness. Some may be feeling the abundance of God's most visible blessings as we begin new jobs or educational careers. Some may feel as though we are headed into a wasteland of a desert with little clue as to which direction to turn. But regardless of these feelings, all of us are called to keep on living, and living faithfully. If not now, at least at some point, we will all reach a desert and have to live there for a while. And when that point comes, we will be faced with a question. Will we accept the company of fellow travelers, such as Mother Teresa, and choose to live and conduct our lives in hopeful remembrance of past revelations, instances of God's faithfulness, or glimmers of hope? My guess is that each of us can point to some specific time at Westmont when we were able to catch sight of God, perhaps through supportive friendships or challengingly difficult ones, through classroom epiphanies or instances of academic despair, or in times of collective worship or seeming isolation and doubt. In all these circumstances, God has been and will continue to be present, active, and involved in and through our class, even when we don't feel it. My prayer for us, class of 2016, is that we each might be like the righteous person in the book of Jeremiah, the person like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. Such a tree stores up water in the good seasons of plenty in order to live by these reserves through the driest of times. So too, we who seek and remember the living water shall live, even in the midst of the drought. Thank you.